So hello, I'm Drake. I'm a KVK counselor for Kingdom 1244, and I will explain the situation that led to JWM and 1042 to attack us when we are their allies in KVK 8. So not all the kingdoms are involved into this, only 1059, 1042, and 1322 are involved into this situation. Keep in mind as well that this video is only an explanation video to make sure that the situation is clear to allow anyone that has doubts or uncertainties to make up their mind, or at least have a better overview of the situation. If you want more details regarding some specific subjects, we went a bit deeper in the doc and also have been keeping updates on it as much as possible. One last thing as well, just to be clear, coming into KVK with JWM or 1059, we perfectly knew that they were going to get more rewards than us. They are a much stronger kingdom, and on top of expecting this, we were hoping to get a good KVK and get some good battles in the Kingstand. So to sweep through the early phases, we set up the Zone 4 built in Zone 5 and built in Zone 6. We split the buildings according to 59's choice, and we basically gathered a bit of intel about 1322. So we basically discovered that they were an Imperial Kingdom. They had some really good open field, but in their downtime, we are definitely able to push them back and win some open field fights. And when it's their uptime, we cannot compete versus them. As well, we also discovered that morning is their forte and the evening is our forte. So with that being said, and with us knowing that the door would open at 11 UTC, so the level 8 doors access to Kingsland, we knew for a fact that if we were able to hold a few flags for 6 or so hours, we would be able to push them back with JWM's help, as they would go slowly offline. So our main task was to hold on a few flags and get a bunch of cities in Kingsland, and basically protect and reinforce the flags. At the same time, it was really obvious for us that JWM would have more or less free range of action on the top side of the Kingston. And we would then be able to they would either be able to help us or help any of the 2B's kingdom if they ended up struggling. But the whole situation didn't happen as we expected, or it happened, but we didn't get much help from JWM, except for some counter rallies that came, that happened when 1322 was more or less getting offline. And we later discovered, but at this time we didn't know, that Jan, one of the BNW R4 player, and one of the players in Allies chat contacted 1322. And he basically made a deal with them, giving 1322 free range to attack us, meaning that 59 would not come and help us when we would ask for help. And once we would have been pushed back behind the level 8 passes, they would probably also hit us in the back. In exchange for that, 1322 would get the different buildings in our Zone 4, and JWM was not going to retaliate. With that being said, I will show a couple of screens. If you want to see them or read them, you should pause. So as you can see, 1059 on the left side asks 1322 to wear us down and tells them that 1059 would be playing dead on this side of the map. Anyways, we didn't know at this time, but we knew that 1322 was going to be offline more or less whenever we were going to be getting more and more online. And we would see the forces switch, and when we finally did, we were able to connect on rallies, burn some flags, and push them back all the way to the door. As we were pushing them and burning some of their flags, we also saw a bunch of cities that were AFK in the middle of nowhere, and I think in the evening we burned around maybe 10 to 15, 60 million plus cities. We pushed them back at the door, and we were doing that, and while we were doing that, JWM took care of the whole top side of the Kingsland. So they took the whole Kingsland, or the whole top side of the Kingsland, and they also built the ring around the ziggurat to basically help any kingdom that needed help at any given time. So with that in mind as well, we also had a ring around 1322, basically meaning that if they wanted to build to our flags to burn them, they would have to build one, and we would see that before they would actually start rallies. So with that in place, we were able to hold them for the next 4 days or so. I think it's 2 days for Zig, 2 days for the door to unseal. So probably around 5 days of waiting until the level 8 doors would be unsealed, and before we could start pushing them back in their zone 6. During this time, they would also push up a few flags in our downtime, and would usually get 2 or 3 flags deep before we would stop them and push them back at the door. On many of these pushes, we also had asked for JWM's help, which would never come except on some specific occasion when we potentially saw Baba or some other open field players. But that's basically the first instance of JWM ghosting us. But with us having a decent defense and some good offense, we were able to hold until they would just tire and get pushed back with our day team coming up. JWM captured the ziggurat. They kept the ring in place and explained that they didn't want anyone to cut it, just in case that one of the enemies would hit them. So they would wait for us to gain control of every level 8 passes before we would get access to the ziggurat. So coming back to this ghosting part of the relations that we had with 1059, it happened a lot, and one of the biggest instances that we had was when our leader Roberto started to talk with Major, which is the leader of 1059, basically around 10 to 12 hours before the door opened. And he basically talked about strats and talked about how we would need probably some help to capture the pass, as we were expecting some resistance, and we didn't think that 2 rallies was going to be enough, so we asked them if they could build flags and maybe triple rally the fort or the door. So as you can see on the screenshots, we got ghosted. We waited for I think 8 to 9 hours with no answers, and at this point we are still waiting for an answer. Nonetheless, 1322 didn't defend. We just touched the door, and as it was our uptime, we managed to burn or start the burning on the 3 forts that they had as defense. So they had JSB on the right side, they had JSK on the middle, and JSS on the left side. So JSK was a small, if not farm alliance, so we were basically able to keep it burning almost 24/7, and it was the first one to drop really quickly. JSB, on the other hand, is the main alliance, and it was the first one to get some defense and some troops in, and whenever they would be online, there was just no way that we could ever capture it. And JSS on the left side was a secondary alliance. They were able to defend it, but not as hard as JSB. So we basically went online, burned them, or started to burn some forts. They would then come online, take the level 8 pass back, and would start burning some of our flags until the attack team would come back online, get the flags back, get the door back, and keep burning the forts. This kind of worked for, as I said, the weaker side, so the left side and the middle side, as we were able to more or less burn them down all the way in a couple days. But JSB was really holding up. They had basically a full HP zone, and we decided that we wanted to drop a fort in the middle of 1129's zone so that we could then cut the line here and catch some cities off guard and basically force them to retreat out of the zone 6. So we built the fort. They came down to defend, and the first evening, so we lost the attack, but we knew that our next uptime would mean that we would be able to get the zone back. So the fort was up. We ended up cutting it through right there, and that was basically the end of them in the zone. So with that being said, 1042 in the meantime took over this circle, and then we were just basically able to build flags all the way to this one, jump this mountain here to get this one, and we built a 44 km fort here to assist any of the two doors whenever we would want to go in the zone. So keep in mind at this time, 1322 is not our allied. We've battled with them for every single flag in the zone. We battled with them for a bunch of other times, and with the level 9 doors opening soon, we are expecting some more fighting. This is when Major comes up with the reward splitting that they decided to do. And he basically sent that in the allies chat. And he explained basically that 1059 was going to get two forts. So the top one, which was their fort, they were also going to get this fort. And the last two, which were the 1129's fort and 1322's fort, was going to be split between 1036 and 1042 and 1244. So we really didn't understand why they would use this type of wording, especially based on performances with how much fighting we've done. I have a couple of screenshots about how many kills we did in a couple days, and these are maybe 80 to 90% only flag defense. Like some of our power players lost 30 to 40 million power. I myself have lost around 20 million powers, which is only T5 troops, and we just didn't understand why. But we just went with it. It was not our choice, so they said that's gonna happen, so it happened. But to make it more fair, we decided that we didn't deserve, or we didn't want to take the fort, so 1059 was gonna get this fort. 1036 was gonna get the fort on their side, and 1042 was gonna get the fort on their side. And we were going to be preparing and defending and like basically getting this fort ready for 1059 to get the two forts for 1059. And in exchange for this, we also agreed that we were going to be getting the 4 Herons rewards instead of getting the fort. So everyone agreed on that. And this is how we decided to split the rewards. And then what happened is 5 or 6 hours before the level 9 doors opening, 1322's leader contacted our leader, so Roberto, and he basically offered to trade zones around. So we would be getting the 4 camps, we would be getting the forts, and we would be getting the 4 Herons for basically free because they would be removing flags whenever we needed some. And in exchange, they would get the 4 camps and they would get the fort. So it totally made sense for us. We didn't see why we would have to fight for rewards that weren't gonna be even for us. We were running low on juice. We were getting really tired. The defensive evening team was basically almost out of troops, and we decided that it was just the best thing to do, especially with JWM picking up this fort at first. So we agreed, we contacted our allies to explain what we were looking to do, and basically which was trading the rewards, and on the other hand as well, everyone was still gonna get the rewards, at least on our side, everyone was still gonna get the rewards. JWM was still gonna get the fort, and we were still gonna get the camps and the Herons, but we weren't gonna have to kill probably all of our troops to go inside this zone. So as well, to make sure that the allies chat had time to read this, and just to make sure that both the kingdoms had time to get the information through, we decided to wait 12 hours in between the passes opening and us building the forts in the zones. So that means that in between the moment we sent the message in the allies chat and the moment we started to build in the zone, at least 16 hours had went through. We build, so the 12 hours will go through. We don't have any news. It's important as well to keep in mind that at no point ever we talked about trading being a negative thing. It was just in no conversation, and that's basically why we didn't think twice about it. Everyone was still getting the rewards. The rewards didn't change for anyone except JS or 1322 was getting some instead of nothing, and we were keeping our troops. So the 12 hour passed by, we don't get any news, and we start to build. And that's 30 minutes later, we get a FIA message to Dabul, which is one of the other counselors, and she basically tells us that we should remove flag around the ziggurat, or we would start a war with them. So they start to burn some of the flags, and whenever Roberto comes online, we remove the flags that are touching to them or touching the zig, just to make them safe. We didn't know why they would do this, especially since we asked them and made sure that they had a lot of time to answer, and with us not knowing and not having any answers, it just didn't make sense. But we went with it, and we just let let the ziggurat occupancy reward go through. And this is when 1322 came to Roberto, and he explained the whole situation. Basically, he shared the screenshot that I showed previously, and we got a chat going between 5 trusted 1244 players and a few 1322 leaders. And at this point, after they showed us everything, we had a lot of evidence, but we really didn't want people to get alerted, and we also didn't want JWM to turn on us if all the information that we had got out. So we decided to just keep it for ourselves until the end of KVK, but we just kept in mind that they could and might come for us at any time. But we hoped and we waited. In the meantime, Dabul, which is as the guy who was in contact with Faye most of the time, also decided to confront Jan, and right after he confronted also Faye, just to know what was why they would do this. So the answer from Jan was clearly that they would rather betray their allies before we were betraying them, which at no point in time, no given time, we ever thought about betraying anyone. The rewards that we were getting weren't as fair as we would have hoped, but at least as we were getting there, I mean, it's winning is better than losing for sure. So that's Jan's answer, and then we have Fai's answer, which is BNW being a secondary alliance, and since the king and the queen of JWM are Queen Faye and Major, then nobody else should be making this type of information. But as Jan was BNW leader, it basically doesn't make sense that this just doesn't hold up. And later, Faye also said that this is just how Jan is, and she just doesn't make this type of decision. So basically, that's the whole situation here. We get the camps. The time runs, so we get the camps. We leave the fort to get captured by JWM whenever they want. And 1322 captures the 4 camps and the fort. The next stop for us is the 4 Huron reward, which was our trade-off for not getting a fort, which we agreed on, and everyone was fine with it. And it meant that as soon as we were done with those, it was basically more or less the end of our KVK. We just didn't have anything else to do except maybe farm a bit more hunter print for 3rd place. So we prepare an alliance to drop a fort. So we drop the fort. We drop the fort right there, and we start to build towards 1129's Huron and around 3 other Hurons that we're just gonna pick up. We also build all around to protect it, and we just go with it. In the meantime, 1059 tried once by one occasion to drop a fort right there, which was then flagged up by 1322, rallied and swarmed up by Maverick. So this fort got destroyed. and they, in the second hand, or the second evening, built one here in the middle of 10:42 and 11:29, just to get defense so that they could get in the zone, and then later on capture this door, probably with 10:42's help. That's what they said. So they go into the zone, and the Herons are already burning, and we have maybe 5 hours left on the timer before they are done burning. So we see them come right down, and as I explained as well earlier, they said that they were just gonna go straight to the door, not even stop to the Herons, so they just build. They ask us to remove some flags in this range, so we do, and so they keep building down. In the meantime, we see 1042 building on the left side of the, or on the right side of the zone. So they build all the way here, and then they just stop right there. Their intent as well on the chats was to come help 1059 with this capture of the fort, of the door, I mean. So they come here, they stop right there, and they just stop building. In the meantime, 1059 is also building on the side, and they build right there, and they just stop building, stop burning, they just don't move more. At this point, there is 2 hours left on the timer, and 1059 and 1042 rally at the same time, both of the Herons, and we successfully defend them for the 2 hours that we had, and that's us getting the rewards, and that's us being done with basically KVK. As I say that as well, 1059 goes into our zone 5 and 6, which we share with them, and they start to basically burn some flags down and cut some territory and zero a lot of cities. So I think in the course of 2 days, 150 to 200 million were killed in this day by some allies. So this is basically the whole story. At this point, we are more or less not in an official ceasefire, but nobody's pushing on anyone. We are just waiting for KVK to end. As for the fort, we haven't captured it until it's probably even too late now to pick it up, as we need 7 more hours to burn it, and there are 3 hours left on the timer to pick it up. Nonetheless, the only thing we did wrong from my POV is not wait until they answered, which probably would have never happened with how they played the game.